お前に会いに来たんだ。大変だったよ。お前すげえ遠くにいるから。
でもどうやって私この時 All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the Malaysia-Thailand English Camp online phase. We're thrilled to have each one of you with us this evening, ready to connect, learn, and inspire each other across the borders. Before we dive into our exciting session, let's go over a few quick housekeeping notes to make sure we all have the best experience possible. Please save your questions for the end and feel free to drop them in the chat box or on our Instagram page at mtec.24. And kindly keep your microphone muted to minimize any background noise. And if you're comfortable, please turn your camera on. It makes the session more interactive and lively when we can see each other's faces. Thank you for your cooperation and let's make this an unforgettable evening. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Shaira, and I'm honored to be your MC for today's session, Creative Writing Guide webinar, Unlock Your Creative Potential. Whether you're a passionate writer or just curious to explore, this session is all about unlocking creativity and bridging cultures. This program brings together participants from Malaysia and Thailand in a special collaboration between University Pendidikan Sultan Idris in Malaysia, Fatani University in Thailand, and the National Sports University in Thailand. So before we proceed, let's take a moment to center ourselves. I invite all Muslims to join us in a brief prayer, while our non Muslim audience may take this moment for quiet reflection, hoping for a smooth, successful program ahead. May our time together be blessed and filled with inspiration.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Once again, a very warm welcome to everyone. So, we are very thrilled to have you here for today's creative journey. Creative writing isn't just about putting words on a page, it's about stepping into new words, breathing life into unforgettable characters, and sharing our unique voices in ways that deeply connect us. Today, we'll be uncovering some of the techniques behind this craft and learn how to turn ideas into stories that resonate. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for this evening, Miss Khalilah binti Ramli. Miss Khalilah is a lecturer from Faculty of Languages and Communication at University Pendidikan Sultan Idris. She has a remarkable academic background that highlights her passion and dedication to language and communication. In 2023, Miss Khalilah earned her master's degree in education with a specialization in TESOL, teaching English as a second language from UPSI. Her journey in education began with a Diploma in English Language Studies from UPSI in 2015, followed by a bachelor's degree in arts with honors in 2018 from University Science Malaysia. This impressive foundation in language and the arts makes her the perfect guide for today's session. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Miss Khalilah as she takes us on a creative journey. Please welcome.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Nur Shaira, and welcome everyone to this evening sharing session where I will bring you to the journey of knowing techniques, okay, as mentioned by our moderator for today's session, how you can start to develop your ideas for your creative writing. All right, so over the next hour, maybe a bit more, we'll cover the essentials of what creative writing is, and maybe we will see the key elements that can make your stories engaging, and maybe some practical tips to get you started on your own creative journey. Right, so whether you are interested in writing short stories, poems, or okay, it's different from academic writing like essays or research papers. It's different. This kind of academic writing, you are more focused on research or factual accuracy, okay? Meanwhile, creative writing is about expression, okay? Whether the expression is through your stories or your poems or even any non-fictions that reads like a story, okay? So I believe all of you have read books or watched any films where you are captivated, okay, by the characters, or maybe you are very drawn into an imaginary world, okay? For example, maybe some of you are Harry Potterheads, okay? It's very magical, right? So everything related to these books, to these films, they all begin with creative writing. Okay, so creative writing allows the writers to step away from the reality and invent new worlds. Okay, so they can also explore deep emotions. They can also even rewrite real events with a more imaginative twist. Okay, so there are different genres in creative writing. Some of you might be very familiar with this, but for some of you who don't have any background in creative writing, we have fiction. Okay, so fiction is imaginative storytelling, include things like novels, short stories, and also novellas. Okay, and then we also have poetry. Okay, poetry, expressive writing in verse, where rhythm, meter, and emotion are the key. And then we have creative nonfiction. So creative nonfiction refers to true stories told using creative techniques. Okay, for example, memoirs, personal essays. Okay, and last one, we also have plays or drama. So this is a dialogue-driven writing meant for performance. So, and the beauty of it is that there are no strict rules when it comes to creative writing. So it's all about what you want to communicate, what you want to express, and how you choose to express in the form of creative writing. Right, so let's move to the next slide. So the purpose of creative writing, whatever writing that you will produce, they have their own purposes. So why do people write creatively? They are reasons as diverse as the stories themselves. Okay, so one of the main purposes is for self-expression. So creative writing gives you the freedom to explore your thoughts, emotions, and also perspectives. So in a way, how to say, creative writing allows you to do that in a way that other forms of writing might not allow you to do so. Because academic is very factual, okay, rigid structure, but for creative writing, you have all the freedom to express yourself. It is also a powerful way to tell stories, whether they are personal experiences or maybe completely fictional ones. Right, so, and beyond that, creative writing can inspire, entertain, and also educate on you, okay? They might have made you laugh, okay, cry, okay? So far, I have any novels that I've read. Maybe I haven't found anything that can actually impacted me in such way, but maybe some of you're really into novels, some stories like that, and it actually made you cry. So this can actually be a form of engagement. Okay, so this is one of the purposes of creative writing, engagement with the readers. So it might also change the way you view the world. So that is the power of storytelling. Okay, so creative writing can also challenge and push boundaries, challenge norms and push the boundaries, okay? Because you have all the freedom. So it's a space where you can experiment with whatever ideas that you have, okay? And then you also offer readers lots of fresh perspective that they might not even encountered before, okay? So this is how to say the perks of being creative writers. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so what are the benefits of creative writing? Is there any benefits if you are a creative writer? For those who are not into creative writing, they might not see this as beneficial, but those who have been writing creatively, there must be few things that you have gained, okay, throughout your journey as creative writers. So first, it enhances, it boosts your creativity. Okay, so when you sit down to write a story or a poem, you are exercising your imagination. You're also thinking of about new worlds, okay, new characters and new ways to communicate ideas. In a way, you will keep developing your creativity. Okay, your brain will always think of what kind of world that I can express, or what kind of world that I can share with the readers. What are the new characters that people might not have ever maybe seen in a movie or they read in the books? So you can actually enhance this kind of creativity. Okay, so and then another huge benefit of creative writing is it improves your communication skills. Okay, when you write creatively, you are learning how to express complex thoughts and also emotions in a way that the thoughts and emotions are relatable and engaging to your readers. Okay, so this also helps with critical thinking because you will often need to solve problems. For example, how you want to make the plot believable. Okay, how you want to develop a character. Okay, how do you want to progress from the exposition of the story? Okay, when you first introduce a story, how to create the rising action, how to get the rising action to the climax of the story, and then how to put everything into its place and end the story very well. Okay, so this is all actually problems for creative writers. It's not problems that actually stops you from writing, but it's a problem for you to, you know, express, okay, all the ideas. And also for characters. So how to make a character is more relatable to the readers, and how to make that the characters as human as it can be. And then how to, you know, because we cannot have a very a character that does not have any personalities. So to think of the personalities that you want to give to this character is actually a problem, okay? Yeah, for you to create the characters creatively. Okay, and then let's not forget that creative writing can be very therapeutic because it allows you to process emotions, okay? For you to give characteristics to your own character, you also need to embrace their emotions and feelings as well. So at the same time, throughout the stories, okay, throughout the plots, there will be some challenges that your character will be facing. So, and then how these they overcome the challenges. So these difficulties, you are going along with your characters. So in a way, okay, it develops your emotional intelligence as well, okay, because you will be constantly putting yourself in someone else's shoes, okay, which is your characters, okay. And then the more you write creative writing, the more you have the more you write creatively, the more you put yourself in others' shoes, and the more you can understand different people's emotions, okay, and different people hardships and so on. So these are the benefits of creative writing. It's not only to helps you improve your writing in skills in writing, but it also helps you to improve yourself, okay, your self development, your self growth. All right, so those are the benefits. Can we move to the next one? Okay, the key elements of creative writing. So whatever creative writing, whatever genre of creative writing, these are the three main elements that you need to include if you plan to write creatively. So these are the building blocks of creative writing, okay? Every story should have this plot, characters, and also setting. So plot, this is actually the sequence of events that make up your story. Okay, so what happens and why it happens. So a good plot keeps reader engaged and wanting to know what happens next. So if your readers manage to stay until the end of your stories, okay, meaning that you have a very good plot. For example, let's think about any favorite movies. If you manage to stay if you pay attention to the movie from the beginning until the end, because you really wanted to know what happened, okay, for the ending, meaning that the writer managed to have a good plot for their stories. Okay, and then we have characters. So these are people, or it can be also creatures, okay, animals, inanimate objects, where you have in your story, and they go through all these events that you have designed, okay, in the plot. So well-developed characters are what readers can connect to emotionally, okay, because the more human your character is, the more relatable they are to your readers. So they are what bring a story to life. Without characters, how can you progress with the plot? Okay, even if you say that, oh no, I will just write about how the season change. Okay, so there must be actually one person that actually can, how to say, they observe the changes, okay, of the seasons. So this person still, the narrator is still a character, okay. Right, and then the last one is setting. Okay, so setting is actually where and when your story takes place. So is it set in magical kingdom? Okay, for example, like Harry Potter. So a futuristic city, or maybe a small town in a real world. Okay, maybe Malaysia, maybe in Thailand. Okay, so this setting helps to create a mood of the story and provides context for the plot. So in the next few slides, we are going to look deeper into all these three. Okay, right. Shall we move to the next one? Okay, so let's move to the first one, which is plot structure. I believe those who have maybe learned about creative writing, or maybe you have your own research on this creative writing, you might have encountered this Freytag's pyramid. Okay, it's a very classical plot structure that is used in many stories. Okay, so now let's break down the structure of Freytag's. Okay, so most stories will follow this common structure. Okay, this pyramid actually have 5 key stages. Okay, the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and also the resolution or the denouement. Okay, so for introduction, actually introduces you basically introduce your characters, where or when, okay, the setting, and then some of the background information. Okay, if you think it's very necessary to do so, then you can actually include background information. It can be for the characters, it can also be for the settings, okay, maybe the eras or something. And then after the exposition, you have the rising action. Okay, so the rising action is where the story builds up. Okay, where you start with the tension. Okay, and maybe there will be I don't know, conflicts. Okay, and then you will be leading up to, from this rising action, we are leading up to the main turning point of the story, which is called the climax. Okay, so climax should be the turning point and peak of the conflict. So this is the most intense moment of the story, right? So after the climax, the story will start to wind down in the falling action. Okay, so loose ends are tied up and things start to make sense. Everything falls into its place. Okay, and then last one, we reach the resolution where the story comes to the end. Okay, so having this plot structure is very important. We cannot just have introduction and right away go to the resolution. That's not making sense in whatever genre of creative writing. So the best way to, I think this is the basic way if you want to write creative stories, is to follow free text pyramid plot structure. Right, shall we move to the next one? Okay, right, so this is example of the pyramid. Okay, there are more explanations for exposition, and then we can also have initial incident, and then we have the rising action, the climax, falling action, resolution, and denouement. Okay, next one. Okay, so after plot, we have decided on what will be the story, what the story will be about. Okay, what's the intro, what is the beginning of the story, what is the climax, what is the plot twist, what is the ending. We need characters. Okay, so characters are the heart of any story. Without characters, you cannot progress. Okay, because we need these characters to maybe tell the stories, or maybe to do the actions, or without these actions you cannot even progress, okay, for the next stage of the plot. So readers, when you develop characters, readers need to care for them, okay, meaning that readers need to pay attention to these characters so that the plot will have an impact. Okay, so but what makes characters interesting? It's all about their backstory and also motivations, strengths, and weaknesses. Okay, so let's go to backstory. First, think about their backstory. What events in their past, maybe, that have shaped who they are today or currently in your story? Okay, so this will give you clues about how they will behave, okay, their personalities in your story. So for example, you can have, for example, Harry Potter. My examples might revolve around Harry Potter because it's I think the whole world know what is Harry Potter. So backstory of Harry Potter. So he's an orphan, right? So and then he didn't even know that he's half from magician families. Okay, so this backstory will give the readers, okay, some information, or maybe some hints, some clues of what will happen, or what could happen in the next plot, okay, of the story. Okay, and then after that, consider what motivations that the characters will have. What do they want? For example, it can be as easy as the goal of this character for your story is to get their dream job. All right, so what are they trying to achieve? Their dream job. So with these clear goals, okay, it will help you to progress from the introduction of the characters until towards the end of the story where they actually get their dream job. Okay, so it is best to have characters with motivation, their clear goals. Okay, and then last one, do not forget their strengths and weaknesses, their flaws, because we human beings, we are not perfect, and so do your characters. Okay, to make your characters having flaws, strengths, and weaknesses, it will help to make it more relatable to your readers. Okay, the more human your characters is, the more relatable they are to your readers, and then the more your readers will be engaged, okay, and then will follow your stories until the end. Okay, so because perfect characters, they are not relatable. Okay, right. Next one. Okay, setting in creative writing. The setting of your creative writing of your story can be very important as your characters. Okay, because it gives the reader a sense of where and when the events are taking place. So when you want to think of three things, okay, the first one is time, location, and also the atmosphere. Okay, so time could refer to a specific era, for example, like in the past, in the present, or the future. Okay, and also for location, where the story physically takes place, whether it's a bustling city, whether it's a small rural village, or even an entirely imagined world. Okay, and then atmosphere is the mood or tone you create with your setting. So is it dark and mysterious? Okay, is it bright and hopeful? The setting should reflect the emotion and themes of your story. So talking about themes, let's say you want to write horror stories. So what kind of setting that you can use? You might need to use dark and mysterious, okay, eerie, gloomy, something like that. But can you write the setting to be bright and hopeful? Yes. Okay, because again, there's no strict rules to creative writing. You have all the freedom to experiment, to be creative, and I think it's a very good idea to do so. You're basically writing horror stories, but the settings are bright and hopeful. Colors are very vibrant. Okay, it's not gloomy. Okay, it's not dark. So yeah, think of different way. Okay, to write your stories creatively. Okay, so that is setting. Right, shall we move to the next one? Okay, show, don't tell. So what is this? This is actually one of key technique in creative writing. Creative writing, especially stories, and even in a poetry, you need to use a lot of narrative and descriptive writing. Okay, so you need to show, don't tell your readers. Okay, what is the difference between telling and showing? Okay, for example, telling, you might write in your story, for example, she was angry. Okay, it's very straightforward. So just tell your readers, she was angry. Okay, your character is angry, was angry. Okay, so instead of saying she was angry, you might write her hands ball into fist and her face flushed red. So you basically just describe, okay, her feelings, her emotions, using all the descriptive words. Okay, it is more vivid and engaging way to let your reader experience the emotions of the character. Let your reader imagine, interpret your writing. Let them imagine how the characters face in that scene. Okay, so show, don't tell. It makes your story more interesting, actually. So by showing rather than telling, you will immerse the reader in the story. So the more description that you provide for your characters, or maybe for the settings, you allow your readers to interpret what is happening, and rather than just they get all the informations right away, okay, by telling them. So use a lot of descriptive words, okay, adjectives, and then actions, dialogue, so to let your readers connect everything and then just imagine the situation within the scene in your story. So that is the main key technique, the key technique in creative writing. Whenever if you write stories, if you write poem, okay, so show, don't tell is a very good technique that you can use to engage with your readers. Right, so next one. Okay, point of view. Point of view, or POV, is the perspective from which the story is told. So there are three main types, okay, first person, second person, and third person. So in first person point of view, usually the narrator is a character in the story, and they use personal pronoun of I, okay. It's a personal point of view and helps the reader to connect closely with the narrator's thoughts and feelings. So usually in the first person point of view stories, there will be a lot of, there will be, how to say, expressions of feelings. Okay, the narrator might show lots of, you can read a lot of emotions. They will share a lot of that in their point of view, okay, as the first person in the story. So in a way, you will understand the narrator deeply, okay, in this kind of point of view. Right, the second one is second person point of view. So this one, the narrator will speak directly to the reader, and they use personal pronoun of you, okay. So this kind of writing, I'm not sure, I think I've came across one or two. It's very not common used by creative writers to use second person point of view, but it can be really powerful, okay, because it really needs a careful writing, okay. You cannot simply just use second person and then expect to change in the next plot, okay, next stage of the plot. So it can be very powerful in certain types of stories, okay, especially those meant to be interactive and immersive. I think I came across this one stories. I don't really remember the title and the author, but the writer used second person, and how it is interactive with the readers is that the writer often asks question to the reader, like, do you think this character is supposed to do this? And then after that, they will explain, or maybe they will proceed with the stories of why the characters do so. Okay, so you are talking with it's actually one way, because we cannot respond to the writers in the book, of course. But it's a really great book. I really forgot, I should have included that in here. But if you have encountered this kind of book, try to look at how they interact with the readers, although it's one way. Okay. Right, so last one is third person point of view. Okay, so third person point of view, usually the narrator is outside of the story, and they will refer to the characters as he, she, or they, or it. Okay, so this third person point of view can either be limited, meaning that the writer will focus on just one character, or it can be where the narrators know everything about all of the characters, because somehow you as the writers, you know the characteristic of all the characters. So it depends the purpose of you writing the story. And yeah, okay, so this point of view, you really need to decide and to know how your story will go, and choose the right point of view for your story. Okay, next one. All right, so we have dialogue. So dialogue is a crucial part of your storytelling, okay? Because of course, there are stories without dialogues, but it really helps when you write stories to have dialogues, okay? Because it is how characters communicate with each other, and then it is often what moves the plot forward, okay? Good dialogue should sound natural, like real people talking. But there are also stories without dialogue, okay? Let's take, for example, A Quiet Place. Not much of dialogue, right? More of actions, and then facial expressions, and then the settings, sound effects, and things like that. But that is in the form of film. But what's more importantly, when you want to produce a film, you need scripts, right? So the script writers managed to produce a very good script that use not much dialogues, okay, to progress towards the plot. So so how to make your dialogue in the story very natural? You can try to pay attention to how people speak in real life. Okay, they often don't use perfect grammar or full sentences. Okay, and then well, it depends on the personalities of the characteristic that you give to your characters. Okay, if they are hot-tempered, maybe they have different style of talking. Okay, the dialogue should be written in different, maybe in different manners. Okay, and then if your character is a bright girl, and then you might need to write the dialogue in different ways, different manners. Okay, and then to make it more natural, you can add pauses. You can also add fillers. Okay, and then yeah, interruptions between dialogues. Okay, and then they use slang and sometimes trail off from their conversation. Okay, and then when you write dialogue, keep your dialogue text simple. Okay, what is dialogue text? Dialogue text, for example, he said. Okay, so you have your dialogue, and then you have the dialogue text, he said or she asked. Okay, so you don't have to be descriptive. Yes, I mentioned just now, when it comes to creative writing, you need to use a lot of description, but when it comes to dialogues, you can actually just be simple with it, because you can actually show, okay, without telling, show in the dialogue using, again, just like I said, to show that this person is angry. Maybe you can structure your dialogue in a way that the character is angry. Okay, maybe the use of words. Okay, and then the sentence structure, maybe you can also use capital letters and then exclamation marks. So things like that can actually shows that instead of he said angrily, you can do that in your dialogue. All right. So no need to get too fancy with the dialogue text. So the focus should be on what the characters are saying, so not how they are saying it. Okay, so that is for dialogue. All right, so the genres for fiction, they are in different shapes and sizes. There are many different genres to explore. Okay, for example, fantasy stories often include magic, mythical creatures, and otherworldly settings. For example, Harry Potter, and then what else? Lord of the Rings. Okay, so those are fantasy stories. Okay, things that, yeah, we cannot find it in our real world now. So so it's very interesting genre. Okay, for creative writing. Fiction, sorry. And then we have science fiction, which tends to focus on futuristic technology, space travel, or life in the distant future. For example, we have whatever, maybe Star Wars, okay, things like that, science fiction, and then they usually have technology advancement that maybe we don't have such things now, maybe in future when we are not sure, but you know, the creativity of the writers are way beyond that. And then historical fiction places its characters in a specific time period from the past. Okay, and then realistic fiction tells stories that could happen in real life, and then the realistic fiction usually they have characters, everyday characters that face real world problems. So all these genres for fiction, they have their own rules and conventions, but you know, as creative writers, this kind of writing gives you the freedom to play with all these genres and make them your own. You can even actually mix these genres. You can have fantasy with science. You can have science with historical. You can have historical with realistic one. So it's up to your creativity. Okay. The next one. Okay, now we go to poetry. So poetry is another form of creative writing other than story, and it's a bit different from fiction. Okay, so poetry focuses on the sound and rhythm of words, and it often plays with language to evoke emotions in a powerful way. And you use a lot of figurative language, okay, because yeah, there are different types of poetry, from sonnets to haikus to free verse. So sonnets follow a specific structure with 14 lines and a rhyme scheme, and you can see this a lot in Shakespeare's collection, while free verse has no set structure of rhyme, giving the poet more freedom when they write their poem. Okay, haiku, is actually a traditional Japanese form of poetry with only 3 lines, following a 5-7-5 syllable pattern. Okay, so the key to poetry is to use language as condensed as you can in a very precise way, because every word in the poem has to work very hard to convey meaning, emotion, or imagery. So one word can actually, one word in poetry, in poem, can actually express a whole situation. For example, the atmosphere of the event that happens, okay, whatever that you want to share, or the idea you have for the poem, right? So poetry usually have strong words, okay, and they have lots of meanings. You might have a favorite poem, okay, because maybe you can relate, you can really understand. And for poetry, you really need to read between the lines, okay. It's not as literal as it is, okay. Hence why I think poetry is a very, how to say, the writers put lots of hard work when they they produce their poems. Okay, next one. Right, creative non-fiction. So other than fiction, we also have non-fiction for creative writing. So this is a kind of genre that is very fascinating because it combines real life experiences with storytelling techniques, okay, to make the truth as engaging as fiction, right? So there are several types of creative non-fiction, and each will allow writers to share their experiences, observations in a very unique ways. So the 3 main types: first, memoir. Memoirs are personal narratives where writers reflect on their own experiences, and usually focusing on specific moments or themes in their lives. So it is less about complete life story, maybe just a part, an episode of their life, and more about creating a connection with readers by sharing meaningful or transformative experiences. What is their turning point in their life? Okay, something like that. So, and then next, personal essays. So these essays explore a topic where through the writer's own perspective. So they are very flexible in style, so often blending factual details with personal reflection to give the readers an intimate view of the writer's thoughts on a particular subject. And then last one, you have travel writing. Right, so travel writing describes a writer's experiences visiting different places, okay? It's a great way to bring readers along on a journey, combining descriptions of locations and cultures with the writer's unique insights and emotions. So travel writers not only show readers what a place looks like, but also convey how it feels to be there. Okay, have you ever came across this kind of creative nonfiction? Maybe travel writing. I think the one is travel writing. Or maybe you don't really came across this thing nowadays, right? Because it's often in the form of videos, okay, video that they share. Right, can you give me like 2 minutes? I need to drink some. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so next one is next one is voice in writing. So voice in writing is very important actually, because it makes each writer's work very unique. Okay, it's like a fingerprint on the page. You need actually voice. Voice is not what you, I mean, how to say, it's not the dialogue. Okay, voice is different when it comes to creative writing. So voice is the distinct style that reveals a writer's personality. Okay, their perspective, or even their worldview, okay, of the subject that they are talking about or they are writing about in their creative writing, okay, in stories or in the poems. So it is what makes the readers recognize an author's work, even if they don't see the name, okay? And so a writer's voice can be formal or informal. So formal voice, informal voice. It heavily depends on the topic and also who are the audience. And it can also take many tones, such as humorous. It can be a very serious tone or conversational. So think of voice as how you would naturally tell a story in your own way. Okay. For example, some writers can have witty, light-hearted voice, while others have a reflective or intense one. So a strong, consistent voice will draw your readers in, okay, to the story and keeps them engaged because it feels authentic and personal. Okay. For example, a writer might use a relaxed, okay, conversational voice in a personal essay, but in a historical piece, okay, in a historical creative writing, they might choose to write in a more formal, authoritative voice to match the subject, because historical piece, unless you are combining with any fantasy genre, usually you are setting facts in historical piece, right? So you have to somehow formal, okay? And then the voice doesn't just tell the story, it shapes how we feel about the story. So basically voice, it shows how you view, okay, the theme in the story or in the in your creative writing. So without a voice, sometimes readers can actually identify or notice that, oh, this writer actually they view such issues as not very heavy, or maybe they take lightly about this issue, or maybe they're very political and something. So all of this is expressed through voice, okay, when the writers write their stories or creative writings. Next one. Right. Okay. So tone in writing. So tone actually refers to the attitude, okay, or mood. It's a bit like the mood in music, or mood in a movie. Okay, it sets emotional backdrop of the story, for the story. And then while voice is about the writer's style, tone is about the attitude or feeling the writers wants to convey toward the subject or the reader. Okay, so is the writer how to say positive, feeling positive about this situation, or is the writer feel negative about the situation, the events that happen in the story? And it can actually range widely. It can be formal or it can also be casual. It can be very optimistic, it can be very pessimist. The writers can be very pessimist, or it can also be very tense. depending on the purpose of the piece. Okay, if the purpose is to entertain, it must be a different tone that they can use, and the effect the writer wants to achieve. So sometimes creative writers, they use this kind of technique tone in writing to sometimes to persuade the readers to agree with their worldview of something. Okay, let's say in a historical piece, okay, they are disagree, for example, for slavery, they dislikes, they despise slavery, and then so the words that they use when they write this kind of piece might be negative, a lot of negative words, to show that their view, okay, on such issue. So for example, maybe in a story about friendship, okay, a writer might use a warm, comforting tone to highlight the closeness, okay, between the characters, and then between the friends, how they support each other. So, but in other types of genre or genre, like for example, mystery novel, they might have a very tense tone, suspenseful tone to keep the readers always on edge. Okay, so what will happen next? They use a lots of questions in the stories, okay, just to create this kind of tone, right? And then tone is essential because it influences how readers feel, okay, how as they read. So imagine reading a news article written in a humorous tone. So you are reading about something about criminal news article, but the writer used humorous tone. Okay, all the words that they use are funny. Okay, so it's not really, how to say, it's not very impactful, and it's not really proper in a way, and it's not appropriate. So the reader could miss the seriousness of the topic, and that's why writers need to carefully choose their tone to match the story purpose. Right. So I think, shall we have 5 minutes break before we proceed to the next one?
Yeah, sure, Miss.
So I think we'll start again at 9:30.
ミツハ、言おうと思ったんだ。お前が世界のどこにいても俺が必ずもう一度会いに行くって。
All right. Okay. Let's continue after the short break. Okay. So I have introduced you briefly about the elements and then some techniques of creative writing. Now let's look into the writing process. So when it comes to writing creatively, same goes to any other writings. Everyone has their own process, okay? But mainly we have these few key steps that we can follow when you want to write creatively. Okay, so first of all, you will want to brainstorm. Okay, you can even free write. Okay, to get your ideas flowing. So you don't have to worry about the structure or perfection at this stage, because you just need to get the ideas down on paper. Right, so brainstorm really important because you need to get all the ideas out first. Okay, and after that you can start to move into drafting. So this is where you start turning all the ideas, okay, from your brainstorming, from your free writing, into a more formal structure. For example, a short story or maybe a poem, right? And then after drafting, okay, you have a clear structure now. You need to revise, okay? So this is the stage where you will go back and make changes whenever needed, wherever needed. Maybe you will have to tweak some of the plot because you cannot really see the rising action. You cannot really see the climax as a turning point. Or maybe you want to add more dialogue for certain parts of the certain chapters of your stories or your novels, okay? Or maybe you just want to refine the language, okay, to make it more vivid. You want to add some descriptive words, okay? So this is where you do what you do when you revise your creative writing, okay? And then last one, not last one, but last one of your story writing, okay, the creative writing is to actually edit, okay, the editing. So this is where you check for grammar, okay, and then if there's any errors, mistakes that you need to fix, okay, any spelling errors, punctuation, and also the consistency, okay. You cannot have how to say different way or a different style of writing in the first part of the story, and then in the middle you have different style, okay. You need to be very consistent to keep your readers engaged, okay, and stay until the end of the story. So editing is a very crucial step when it comes to creative writing, because even the best story can be weakened, okay, by poor editing. So maybe send your story to proofreading, okay, so make sure that there's no errors, mistake or whatsoever. Okay, and then after that, if you're done with the editing, you can proceed to publishing, okay. Publishing is basically just share your final piece with others. It can be through blogs, okay, social media posts, books, or maybe you can even join competitions. Okay, so this is the writing process, which also similar to any other form of writings. And for today's session, it's the creative writing. Okay, next one. Right. Now, this happened even to any other form of writings, academic writings, writer's block. Okay, so there are writer's block where you it's a very frustrating moment because you know you want to write, but the words are just not coming out from your brain, okay. But no worries, there are few strategies that you can use to overcome writer's block. Okay, one of the trick is to first actually before you free write, break, because you know some people they are gifted, they can complete a whole story the whole chapters or maybe poem in one sitting, but for you, if you are doing it for maybe for assignment, for assessments, okay, there's a deadline for this. Sometimes you will have these pressures, okay. So this writer's block will be more common for you, okay, because you have all these pressures. So you need to take a break, because sometimes stepping away from your writing for a bit can actually give you some fresh perspectives. You know, you can take coffee break maybe, and then maybe you can watch some videos online, or maybe go out for a walk, and then you try to get inspiration from whenever you have the breaks. Okay, and then after that you can also try free writing. Okay, so free writing, just write whatever comes to mind. Okay, just like how you start the story by brainstorming. Okay, free writing, you do so for whenever you have a writer's block. Okay, because like writer's block, you want to write, but it's just not coming out. So just think of any words related, or maybe you want to include, and from there maybe you can get some ideas on how you can start writing again. Okay, the goal for free writing is just to get your brain working again. Okay, and then change your environment. Yes, instead of just writing in your room, maybe you can go outside, go to cafes, library maybe, and then just get a change of environment. Maybe from there you will have more how to say, inspiration on what to write, how to continue your stories or poems. Okay, and then last one is to set small goals. Okay, instead of just saying that, oh, for today I would like to finish one whole chapter. Okay, I need to write a whole chapter today because the deadline is closing and I need to finish this as soon as possible. What you can do is try to set a goal of writing maybe for 10 minutes, or maybe just finish one scene. Okay, have the motivation to keep writing. Okay, most of the time that will happen because setting small goals like this can actually make, if you are writing this for assignment or maybe for as a work, it will make the task of writing feel less overwhelming for you, right? So to overcome, you can use this kind of strategies. Okay, next one. Okay, if you see this means that our session for today is coming to an end. I just want to share a few advice from famous writers. Okay, they shared their wisdom on writing. For example, Stephen King. If you want to be a writer, you must do two things above all others. Okay, number one is to read a lot and write a lot. So you read and you write. You read and you write. Okay, and then Ernest Hemingway, there is nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and read. Okay, so these quotes, for example, for Ernest Hemingway, it shows discipline. Okay, so these quotes remind us that disciplines, persistence, and continuous practice are key to becoming a better writer. Okay, next one. Okay, so taking advice from Stephen King, read a lot and write a lot. So it is very important for creative writers to do lots of reading. Okay, so reading is one of the best ways to improve your writing, because when you read widely, you can pick up on different writing styles, okay, voices, and also techniques that other writers use in their creative writings. It's not like you are copying and pasting them in your own story. No, you just get some inspiration on how they write. Okay, if you read a book, a story, and you feel it's very impactful, you always hook until the end of the story, meaning that the writer managed to get your attention. The writing skills very good, so this kind of writing that you need to learn from. Okay, so hence why you need to read a lot, read other people's piece. Okay, and then from the reading also pay attention to how the authors develop their characters. Okay, and then how they create tension and conflicts in their plots, and then how do they describe different worlds other than our real world. And then reading also maybe can help you expand your vocabulary. Okay, and then you can take for example any descriptive words used by any other creative writers and add that in your story as well, and also maybe understand few structure. And maybe if you want to write about different culture, okay, different how to say, from different countries, okay, for different countries, then you need to read a lot from those countries, okay, their creative writing. Okay, and then from there you can include them in your own creative writing. Right, next one. I believe that's the end of, yes, okay. So just a recap of today's session. So we have covered the basics of creative writing, including plot, characters, and setting. We also talk about in the importance of writing techniques, for example, show, don't tell, the dialogue, and the point of view. And then we also discuss the importance of finding voice, to have voice and tone in writing. So I hope that you keep practicing and remember that writing is a journey. We can only cover the basic parts of creative writing, because if you want to know deep in depth about creative writing, you really need a whole semester of a course, a creative writing course, for you to understand every single creative writing elements and techniques and so on. Okay, and before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with few final thoughts about creative writing. Since writing is a journey, and it actually takes time to develop your writing skills, especially if you're just beginners. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and that's how you learn and grow as writer. Okay, it's okay to make mistakes. You learn from mistakes. And then please keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep experimenting with the genres, the techniques. Okay, the more you write, the better you will become, and maybe in future you will be the next. You will produce, okay, great stories and also poems. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you feel inspired to dive into your first maybe creative writing projects. Thank you so much. I think we can proceed to the Q&A sessions.
Thank you so much, Miss Khalilah, for such an inspiring, insightful session. So we've now reached the Q&A segment of our session, but due to time constraints, we'll only be able to take a few questions from our audience today. So these are the questions that I've collected, because you did say that you don't need to be afraid of making mistakes, because this one question that asks, what are some common mistakes beginners make in creative writing, and how can they avoid them, because they think that it's quite not a good thing to start with mistakes.
Yeah, okay. Mistakes can be on maybe they are lacking of describing, okay, the settings, okay, and then I would say the story might feel a bit dull, okay, the first time they write, because they don't really use descriptive words, okay. That would be, I would say it's a, yeah, it can be a mistake, because people will often turn away from your story and then, oh, it's not really interesting, it's kind of boring. But how to overcome is to read a lot from other writers and try to see how they develop the characters, the setting. And then the second one, I think the common mistake made by beginners is they don't really research when they they plan to write certain things. Yes, of course, you brainstorm. You have all the freedom when it comes to creative writing. But also, if you plan to write on certain cultures, certain customs, okay, traditions, it is best for you to do some research. Or maybe if your team includes maybe your setting is in hospital, okay, you need to know how the system work in hospital, the procedures, okay. So do some research on that. I think that would be the common mistakes made by beginners.
I see. So that is the first question. And second one is, how important is cultural context when creating characters and stories? So,
Yeah, I think it's very important because it depends on the theme. Okay, if it's historical, you're talking about certain historical piece, you really need to include the culture. You really need to describe the cultures. Okay, and then for certain, let's say you want to highlight certain topics, okay, for example slavery, and then something like that. Yeah, what is the culture with certain types of issues, okay, world issues. So I think it's really important. But then again, if your creative writing there is new how to say it's a different world, okay, fantasy, maybe there's no need for culture unless you think it's very important. How to say it will actually affect the plot, okay. For example, maybe you would like to write a story about how this tribe, okay, this is not like real tribe, but it's a fantasy one, and how this tribe progress, maybe they have issues in their tribe because they have certain cultures, okay. So the characters may need this context, okay. You need to include this cultural context in your creative writing.
all right. So cultural context is important if it's aligned with what you are going to decided to write on. And I believe that this will be the last question from us because of the time constraint. So, how do you recommend writers develop unique voices in their writing? How do they start to have their own signature of writing?
One way you can do this is actually every written products that you have, okay, of your creative writing, try to get feedbacks, okay, try to get feedbacks and try to see if the feedbacks mentioned about the consistency and everything, and to have unique voice. I think again, as Stephen King advised about writing, reading a lot and writing a lot. Along the way, when you write a lot, you will see that you are more comfortable to write such way and it is acceptable to your readers. And I believe that will be your unique voice. Okay. And yes, of course, if your way of writing, your voice is, how to say, maybe it's controversial, but accepted by certain certain types of audience, okay, not majority maybe, but that is, you think that is, yeah, acceptable, I believe that would be your unique voice.
I see. Thank you so much, Miss Khalilah. And as we reach, that is the end of our Q&A session. And as we reach the end of our program, I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our speaker, Miss Khalilah, and to each one of you for making this session so dynamic and engaging. And I hope this evening has given us new perspectives on storytelling and strengthened the bond we share within the ASEAN community. And a special thank you to our hosts, University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Fatoni University, and the National Sports University for bringing us together. May we continue to celebrate and learn from our diverse cultures, not just today, but every day. But before we wrap up, let's capture this memory together. Media committee, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Okay, alright everyone, cameras on. Let's see those excited faces. Because I'm gonna snap pictures in 10 seconds. So please get ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let's begin with formal poses. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now informal poses. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. That's it.
All right, thank you once again to Miss Khalilah. And ladies and gentlemen, before we sign off, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude for your active participation. It's your energy and the enthusiasm that make this event so meaningful. As a quick reminder, please scan the QR code on the screen for attendance. Once again, thank you for joining us tonight. Take care, keep the creative spirit alive, and stay inspired. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you, Miss Khalilah.
All right, thank you so much.